This is Theory and Harmony on a piano thing, compiled and edited by Joe Dineen and Mark Bridges. This is a basics section, and the chord section currently has led to chord inversions, and then on the other side it says cadences. So chord inversions suggests that any chord is said to be in root position as long as the root is the lowest note, regardless of the position of the other chord members. Okay, so the root is the lowest note regardless of the position of the other chord members. So a chord is said to be in root position in C if you go C, E and G. Root again is C, and then if you go, skip the E and go to G and then use a higher C and E, then it's still a chord which is said to be in root position, as long as the root is the lowest note. That is root position, and that is root position. Another root position is if you just go straight from the C to the G, and then you jump up to the E, and then you jump up to something which is, it looks like a high C. So this chord is said to be in root position because the root is the lowest note, and that's regardless of the position of the other chord members. So these guys up here, the G, the E and the C, they're chord members, like chord club. So it goes from the C to the E, and then it's jumping up to the C, and then jumping up to the G, another chord members chord. So you got root, 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 and root. Oh no, taking it away. As long as that note is there, it's a root chord. When a note in a chord other than the root, when a note in a chord other than the root is on the bottom, the chord is said to be inverted. Chord is a root position chord or an inversion chord. Root is in the C here with the C at the bottom. And the first inversion chord is if the third degree of the chord is on the bottom. The chord is said to be in the first inversion. The first inversion is if the third degree of the chord is on the bottom. The third degree of a chord is an E within a C. So the first inversion root is C, E and G. The first inversion chord is an E, G and a C above. So the root is that and the first is that. So therefore the second is going to be the G and then the C above and the E above. So the root is that and the second is that. Root and first, root and second, and then I guess back to the root again. So you go root of C, first inversion of C, second inversion of C, and then the root again. So it looks like there's two inversions available. inversion and a second inversion, whereas on that other sheet thing, something to do with a triad, so the fifth triad of C is the G, the B, and the D, whereas the second inversion of C is the G, the A, and the G, the C, and the E. Chords with some diagrams going on. Chords with extensions above the triad have further inversions according to the number of notes in the chord. Seventh chord inversions. The root is C, E, and G, with the seventh chord inversion adding a B, which is a C major seventh. The root C major seventh, seventh chord inversion of C. Chords with extensions above the triad have further inversions according to the number of notes in the chord. The root is C, E, G with a B. The first inversion is the E, the G, the B with a C. Second inversion is G, B, C, and E. The third inversion is a third inversion, which is B, C, E, and G. So chords with extensions above the triad have further inversions according to the number of notes in the chord. Root, first, second, and third, which suggests that I think the key is this B is being added as a seventh. So the root chord is C, E, G with a B. That's the thing. Then the first inversion chord was the E, the G, and the C, and it's got that B still. And then the second inversion was the G, the C, and the E above, and then that's B still there. That's where it's still there. And then the third inversion, which I thought was the root again, because it's got the B there, it must be a third inversion for that reason. Unless there's any clues on the other side here. So regular, whatever that means, a root position is that one, the first inversion is that, and then a second inversion is that, and then it stops, doesn't give any more clues. Whereas with that B, this is a seventh chord inversion, you get your root, and you get your first, then you get your second, and you get a third, and you go up to the high one. Chord inversions. Cadences. There's loads of diagrams to go with it. cadences. The most important chords in any key are the 1 or I, and that's called tonic. The most important chords in any key are the 1 tonic. C is C, E and G. Bit of Britney Spears. That is an important chord in a key of C, and it's the first, and it's called a tonic. So it's a root and it's a tonic. The fifth, or V, dominant chord in the key of C would be an F chord. No, is it? No, I don't think it is. I think it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it would be a G. Dominant, yeah, dominant it said was a G a couple of pages earlier. So the most important chords in any key are the 1, I, tonic, which is the C, C, E and G. The fifth dominant chord in the C chord is possibly a G. And the fourth is a subdominant, so it's going downward, not upward, that's fair enough. And the fourth is the F. Subdominant, which is fair enough. So you've got your tonic at number 1, you've got your dominant at number 5, and then sub below it is your F. The 1 and 5, or the I and V chords, are the primary elements of a cadence, and it says cadences. The 1 and 5 chords, are the primary elements of a cadence, and the 1 and 5 chords in the C were the C and the G. So you like jump in from the bottom, high up, and then back down again. Whereas the one below the dominant is subdominant because it's sub, it's below, it's sub. A cadence is a chord progression that establishes a particular key center or tonality and ends a piece or selection, or not selection, but ends a piece or section of a piece, ends a piece or section of a piece. So it's like an end. A cadence is a chord progression that establishes a particular key center or tonality and ends a piece. So the most important chords in any key, so in the C key, are the I1 tonic C, the V dominant, 5 dominant, which is G, and the 4th subdominant IV, which is the F. The I and V chords are the primary elements of a cadence, a chord progression that establishes a particular key center or tonality, tonic, chord, tonality, key, tonality, and ends a piece or section of a piece. perfect authentic cadence, and there's pictures. The chord progression of the V chord, the fifth chord, followed by the 1 chord, or I chord, or said as V to I, is said to be a perfect authentic cadence. The chord progression of the V chord, followed by the 1 chord, is said to be a perfect authentic cadence. And if you went, say, if that's the first, that's the fifth, that's the first. If you were in A, you would go E to A. The chord progression of the V chord followed by the I chord, or V to I, is said to be a perfect authentic cadence when both the soprano, or top note, and bass, or bottom note, end on the tonic. C major. You got a G, and you got a D, and you got a G again, and you got a B. That's the fifth, which is the G chord, and the soprano or top note and bass or bottom note end on the tonic. Oh, okay, the tonic is the C chord, the number 1 chord. So the V is the G, and then the C is the C, the E, the G, and then the C again at the top. So the top note is the soprano, and the bass is the bottom note, and they both end on the tonic. And the tonic is C, so you've got C, E, G, and C. So you've got some kind of V, 5, G. And that is said to be a perfect, authentic cadence, because the soprano and top note and bass end on the tonic. And you can just copy the same in the left hand, it shows here. So it looks like the key is the C being above and below, which is the soprano, and the bass, the top note and the bottom note. The A minor is a relative chord, which would be E, B, and then E above, and then it's a G, but it looks like it's a sharp for some reason. So, oh, it makes sense because it's supposed to be an E chord, so it is a G sharp, and that's A minor 5th, which is an E. I think I just played that, and then resolves on oh, but it's resolving on an A minor, I think, which is an A, a C, an E, and then above A. Well, that's fair enough, you could do that. I think you can do major as well. Just like horns. Sort of like ABBA. It's the same in the left hand, it just is the F clef rather than the G clef. Note, in a perfect authentic cadence, the fifth chord, the V chord, is always major, even in a minor key. So that's why it was an E both times here. Or E to A major. So that's a cadences, and it says perfect authentic cadence. Okay, well, it finishes here with one which is called an imperfect authentic cadence. The bottom, authentic cadence and imperfect authentic cadence. When the soprano or top note ends on the third or fifth of the tonic. So perfect authentic cadence when the soprano or bass ends on the tonic. If it ends on the C and the C, it's perfect authentic cadence. And I think perfect again was C octave up to C was a perfect 8 or something like that. Imperfect authentic cadence when the soprano or top note ends on the third or fifth of the tonic, which is a E or a G in the C thing. The chord progression is called an imperfect authentic cadence. The E, the G, the C and the E again is ending on the third. On the G, the C, the E and the G is ending on the fifth. So C major. C major is the G and the G above, and then the B and the D. There's your G chord again, which is the fifth, but it's going to resolve. It ends on the third or fifth. So it resolves less, it's more open in a way. What about open rather than closed, whereas this one is the perfect authentic cadence. Just finalizes. Then the A minor version was